Hello, my crafty friends. It's Michelle, the Southern Shell, and I am here today with the Calendar Girls collaboration. Today, I have some beautiful tags that I made out of a gnome calendar from 2024. Our hosts are Tiffany with Simply Blessed Crafts, Jessica with The Busy Housewife, and their guest host today is Brenda with Rustic and Lace DIY. Let's jump right on in and I'll show you what I created. So here's the calendar that I used. It is the Gnome Life calendar from 2024. And January had this really adorable snowman and gnome on for the image there. I'm just going to use one of my X-Acto knives and slice this page right on out. So I didn't want to use that image, so I went ahead and made copies. I was running out of ink, and so I had to re-ink my printer. And I went ahead and used my mulberry paper to print that out onto. And now I'm taking the back side of the insert to my 1930s garden tray, and I'm going to do the winter scene on the back side. So when I am done with Christmas, I can flip it over and just leave the winter scene of the snowman and the gnome out. So all I'm doing to help stabilize this poster board is first putting a good coat of matte Mod Podge all down and let it dry. So I went ahead after that dried and came in with my ruler and marked every 3 inches to create these little 3-inch slats for my wood background. I'm going to flip that around and I'll do 3 on the other side. And now I will go ahead and draw to meet up my lines to create my boards. Now it's time to come in with my chocolate sprinkle, and this is Apple Barrel, and it is an acrylic paint. And I am just coming down with a nice thick line so that it will show up once I put a top coat of the board on here. You can see I want it to be able to be seen, look like it's maybe dirty in the background type of thing, to really give it the look that this tray had before I cleaned it up. And now it's hazelnut time. We're going to come in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color hazelnut. And I'm going to do a dry type brushing over the top of this poster board. Now, the whole other side has already been done, and adding the Mod Podge and now the paint on top of the Mod Podge. By the time I'm done with this feels like a stiff canvas, and I love it. So I'm just coming in, I poured a little bit more out onto my little area there, and I'm just going to come in and try to dry brush this across here so that I still see some of the white board in the background, and it looks like it's aged and worn out. Now I wanted to come in with just a little bit of sparkle, so I have some gold metallic paint, and I'm using that same paintbrush and just dry brushing, wiping it off the back, and then coming in and pouncing into the gold, and then dry brushing it down the top of my wood plank. Once those paints are dry, I'm going to come in and just give a quick iron down on this. And it'll stick in a few little spots only because the Mod Podge is still showing through on some of those white areas. But everything is good and coming in nicely. This actually helps get my poster board nice and flat again after having the moisture of the Mod Podge and the paint all on there. And this will fit nicely back in my tray, nice and flat once it's all done. So I'm coming into the back side of the image I printed, and I spritzed some water onto my little pad there, and coming in with a paintbrush and some water. Now what you want to do is you don't want to let that sit there too long. You want to make sure that you come in and you get it wet and you tear it off. I let that bottom corner sit a little too long, so I'm just going to start peeling right there, and you can see the longer you let it sit, the more that mulberry paper will actually soak it in. And if it gets to where you have a lot of color on your page, it will start to make that look more like a watercolor, and it'll leave water spots, water lines where it has bled over. So just put it on where you need it and tear it off fairly quick before that water, because I have an inkjet printer, that will cause issues there. So do it quickly. Now that I've done the water tear all the way around, I'm using my Tim Holtz Distressed Oxide in Weathered Wood. This brings out that beautiful color in the gnome's outfit and parts of our snowman's hat. And I think this is the perfect color to go around this image. And the paper that I'm doing it on, I'm going to save that because it looks like beautiful stormy clouds once you get that all done there. So it is definitely a way you can save your pages that you are using. I think it's turning out beautiful, and turn that around and get that other side going. So I came in and I put another coat of Mod Podge over my faux wood slats there. And now I'm going to come in once again with my Cricut Easy Press iron here, the little mini press, and come in with my parchment paper and look at that mess, and come in and iron down my image to that Mod Podged area. I try to get all over the image first because I don't want to get my little parchment paper on the area that I have the Mod Podge, because it will iron that on and stick. So I'm trying just to get the image on there and get that down nicely, and it's coming along beautifully. Now I have some of my white wax. I'm sorry, not my cream wax. It is a cream color. It's definitely not white. But I have some white wax and I have some clear wax. And I'm actually going to seal my image here with the clear wax first. Now, going over this with the clear wax, I am doing a light coat in short little brushes because I do have an inkjet printer. And just like the water, if this gets saturated with any moisture, it can bring that ink back to life, and you will start to have some water spots, or it will start to bleed. So be careful here. And you can tell as I go over with this clear wax, that image becomes a little more translucent, and you can see the painting that I did behind the image of the wood boards, the wood slats there. And so I think that this really helps to make this look aged and distressed. Now, I didn't want any brush strokes showing up in my clear wax, so I'm just laying down a clean piece of parchment and going over this with my heat press and clean parchment paper to get out any of the brush strokes in my wax. Now, just coming in with a clean paper towel and giving that a quick buff before I move on to my next step. So now I'm coming in with some of my homemade texture paste, and I thought I would lay this down and maybe make it look like we had some snow really coming off of this, but it was way too white. So I went ahead and laid a little bit down on the tips of those branches and around a little bit on the snowman and a little bit on his, I think I put some on his eyebrows. But then I came in with that clean paper towel and wiped it back a little bit so I can have a little bit there on each of those branches as I'm wiping it out. And I'll add a little bit in some stripes on the snowman, just giving it a little bit of highlight there. And I'll come back in with that same towel and wipe it out. And I did the same thing with the eyebrows. And I think that did fine highlighting some of those branches and some of the real white area. So now I'm going to come in with my white wax, which is actually going to tone it back with a little bit of antiquing. And this is going to help tone down that bright white I just added onto it, but it's also going to bring out some of the white over everything else. So here I have two tags by Plaid, and I got these at Walmart for $1 each. They've been in my stash for a little while. I'm coming in with my Waverly chalk paint in the color Sandstone, and I'm going to go ahead and give these a nice little coat all over front and back. And it does take two coats to cover the sides and the back. I only did one coat on the centerpiece in the front because those will be covered. Now I'm taking my matte Mod Podge. I had this bottle standing upside down because I had poured it into my little condiment jar, and so I wanted to get what was left out of my bottle here. And I'm just putting a coat of Mod Podge all over the front of these tags. While that has dried, I now have my little images here I'm going to go ahead and cut out for my tags. You see here, I've got just partial image of that calendar printed on some mulberry paper, and I'm going to go ahead and trim off the edge of the top, the side and the bottom, and then I can come in and line it up and trim out on the first tag where the gnome and the the gnome and the snowman will be. I'm just going to lay that there and crease it with my finger and come in with an X-Acto blade and trim that right on up off the edge there. Really sharp, clean blade, and you should be able just to run it right along that edge and trim that off. I'm going to go ahead and do that all around our tag and then get ready for the second one. And just like the other one, I'm coming in with the second part of my image. I'm going to trim off any of the excess white on there, and then I can lay this down and trim it out like I did the gnome and the snowman. Excuse me. So when I get that edge trimmed out, I'm going to lay it down on top of the tag, and it should fit there just right. And now I can go ahead and press it down with my fingers and come in with my X-Acto knife and trim the top of that tag just like I did the other one, across the top and down the side. And that's all I needed to do was get that top of that tag trimmed out to match. I did come in with my little X-Acto knife again, and I actually just cut little slits where the tag hole is actually going to be. And you can see here, I'm just laying it right down there. It's matching up, and I'm going to come in with a clean piece of parchment paper and iron that down, and it will just be perfect. This iron-on method is wonderful when you're using thin, more fragile paper. Now I can come in and just do a little X right there where that hole is and press the end of my X-Acto knife through, and now I have that hole all ready for my tag. Now I just wanted to come in and add a little sparkle, so I'm going back to my gold metallic paint, and I'm going to just add some details along some areas, like his bell on the top of the snowman's hat. I'm going to go ahead and just do the highlights on that in that gold. He has some little hair poking out underneath that hat, so I'm going to add a little gold to that, a little bit on the bottom of the bird's chest, and a little bit on the little doe's chest. I was looking for some ribbon and lace, and I didn't have one that was the right color. And I really wanted this to match the color scheme of the first one I did as well, since it was the same image. So I came back in with that distressed oxide and that weathered wood and came around and inked the edges of both of my. Now I found this beautiful Victorian crocheted lace, and it's very vintage, but it was not the right color that I wanted. I wanted it to be more of that weathered wood, that bluey gray tones. And so what I did is I drug out that weathered wood again, and I'm going to take my ink pad and I'm going to just stamp it down on top of this parchment paper. I'm going to come in with some water and spritz it, and then I'm going to mix that all together and rub my lace all into that ink. I'm going to do this a few times until that ink gets all nice and covered for what I want it to look like. That process seemed to be taking forever, so I just came in with my dauber and my ink and went all over it just like this, front and back, and set it aside to dry. That was drying. I came in with my art glitter glue. This is a glue that is made specifically for glitter, and it dries super fast. It is water-based, so cleanup is easy, but you want to use it. You want to keep a pin in it when you're not using it because it will clog that super fine tip. But I'm just coming in with that art glitter glue and kind of following the tips of the trees where that snow fell, the very top parts of it. And once I get a nice little bit of glue on there, I'm going to come in with my little craft stick here and sprinkle some white glitter over that. When I get that on there, I went ahead and just put some more little areas, and I'm just going to continue layering this until I get all the little areas I want to covered. Now you can see I just laid that right on down over that and let that loose glitter fall into that newly put down glue. And now I'll set that aside and let it dry just a bit while I prep the second board. On the second tag, I came in and just started with the snowflakes. How fun to have each of those snowflakes coming down to have a little bit of dimension with some white glitter. Just to knock this out of the park, I just think this just brought it up to another level. So I continued to add some more glue to the rest of those little snowflakes that are falling. And then I did a little bit of highlights on the snowman and a little bit on the gnome and his beard. Now I'm going back to my first tag here and adding those snowflakes and then a few little dots, making sure I'm hitting those, and then coming back in with that white glitter over that art glitter glue. Once those were dry, I took the ribbon that I colored with the weather wood and tied a knot in one end. And now I'm going to come and string it through the tag that will be on the back side and then straight through the one with the snowman on the front. And now I can pull that up. What I'm going to do is take a little bit of hot glue because I want these to hang a little cockeyed here. So just a dab will do you to hold these in place so when you hang them up, both of the tags will be showing. I want that to hang in the center so it looks like both tags are just hanging off to the side. And there you have it, my friends. Look at how adorable my tray turned out with its winter theme now on display. I love that little gnome and snowman image, and putting it together with the tray and the tags, I just think turned out adorable. Guys, don't forget to check out the playlist below, and the link to the host channel will also be there. Thank you for joining me. As always, stay safe, God bless, and bye for now.